I wanted to do it in such a way where everybody was important, not just certain people. Some of the money I got in the mail without asking were from my teachers, my kindergarten teacher, people like that send you $5, $10. And I wanted an allegiance to all of them, just like you would have to the banker downtown or anybody else. Why not? And so I always ran it that way. I would see anybody who wanted to come to my office. If they made an appointment, no matter who they were or what, and you'd be surprised what you learn talking to everybody. Some of them were crazy. I mean, stuff that you wouldn't even believe. I remember one day a guy came up and brought me a bunch of rose bushes. He pulled them out of the ground. He was all scratched up. He was bleeding. He was nuts. And he gave them to the girls in the office, and we gave him a hug, and he left. He was happy. I mean, I remember a teacher coming to me that taught college, and she thought somebody was taking the bricks out of the foundation of her house. And she was serious. And I made a phone call. It was bullshit. There was nobody on the phone, and she was happy when she left. You cannot imagine in any city, you've got all kinds of people, just like there's all kinds of us in this room tonight. When the government had a program to look at every house in a community, they was going to give money or make you bring it up to a standard. It bothered me a little bit because there's a lot of people that can't bring their house up to a standard. So I went and picked about 20 out of a file myself. Didn't tell anybody. I went to visit the people. I was in my early 30s. I'll never forget it. For the first time in my life, I talked to people that were 75, 80 years old that had never had a hot bath in their life. They didn't have hot water in their house. Well, I didn't know that because I always had it. I saw a lot of things. I saw houses with screens that were stapled on that people couldn't get out if fire came. And they were owned by people who owned 50 or 60 of them, slumlords. So what we did was, the little old lady that perhaps could not afford to do her house, we tell her we'll come back. The ones that were owned by the slumlords, we put them out of business. Once I saw that type of thing, I began to realize that all kinds of people live in a city. And if we get the idea that everybody lives like we do, whatever that might be, you're wrong, gang. Dead wrong. I put a police radio in my car and I started answering calls. Sometimes I'd show up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was young. What the hell? I was doing all kinds of things at 3 o'clock in the morning. I saw things that I never believed existed. That's what cops see every day of the world. It's a tough job. It's gotten worse. It committed me to a lot of things and made me realize there are all kinds of people. I remember I had a friend down on Central Avenue, the black section of town, who never went to school at all. He loved me, I loved him. He helped a lot during the riots and stuff like that, and I won't go into all that. It was, God, you can't imagine what it was like to see people burning down stuff in a town where you've lived. I went right in the middle of it, got up on a flower pot to come to my office. Everybody thought I was crazy. But they came, and it stopped. This man had all kinds of little nice sayings, like never look down on a man unless you're picking him up. Never went to school, but that's wonderful, isn't it? Another guy in that area, when I got elected, put a piece of paper in his typewriter and gave it to me. He said, never become a prisoner to the boundaries of your own ego. It's a pretty damn good thing to tell somebody that's 33 that became mayor, because it would be easy to do that. I see value in every person. I can remember where I was born. Every person who lived on that street had an affiliation with my life. They loved me like my parents did. It's not as true today. My grandmother and grandfather paid the qualifying fee for me to run for mayor. It was $1,250. It was about 1/8 of everything they owned. And my dad said, take it. They live with me. They don't need the money. And my grandfather was in his late 80s. He said, if you win, I want to come to the victory party. When you win in politics, everybody comes to the victory party. The ones that help you, the ones that didn't, they're all there. You know, I was for you, Paul. Yeah, right. I'll never forget him walking up and saying to my minister, I don't care if I die now. He spoke broken English. He said, I've seen everything I want to see. Now that's a lot to say, but is it, when you stop and think, here's a guy whose son became president of a bank and owned 2 of them, Another son was a CPA. My mother married my dad, and they had a good business. So every grandchild that he wanted to get a college education. You see, the American dream to him was more real than he ever could have imagined. And he too gave back and gave back.